Greetings and welcome. Thank you for joining us here at RPMMORadio, and today I will be your host, Ashen Phoenix, and the two ladies that are always here because somebody needs to help keep me in line are Sib.
Hello.
And our guild leader of disaster, Jazz.
Hello.
She's mean to people because guild leaders are terrible, terrible people.
I am.
Like the supervisors of
disagree.
the online world.
I disagree. She's giving me Supreme Commander, so I'm good.
Yeah. Supreme Lord, Emperor, Commander, Caesar.
Yeah.
Overlord the Third, Darth.
And just insert my character at the end of whichever character I choose.
All right. Well, thank you guys, everybody here for joining us today, either live at Twitch or at any of our podcast locations on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Podbean, Google Play, the usual places at RPMMORadio. And of course, you can always visit us at our website, get all our up-to-date stuff at rpmmoradio.com. So we got a pretty good show for you today. We're going to go over gaming levels versus RP strength and the correlation between the two. What does it matter? Can you be taken seriously if you're level 1 and you're claiming yourself to be the Emperor? The short answer is probably not. But before we get into that, we got some news. And before that, we're going to go into what the three of us have been or haven't been doing in roleplay in whatever game, which I think we're all pretty much at ESO at this point. Elder Scrolls Online.
We have corrupted you.
Yeah. Well, it is also an unfortunately limited venue at this point. There's not.
It is.
When was the last new MMO that came out that was like, oh, I absolutely have to jump on that?
Yeah.
No, I'm actually asking you that. It's not rhetorical. I really honestly can't think of anything.
The last game that I was truly excited about was Landmark, and we all know how that ended.
Yeah,
so
Landmark. Yeah.
That was the one I was really excited about. I even invested in.
See, and look, that just shows how good their corruption is, because it's not Landmark. It was EverQuest Next.
Yes.
Yeah. So
that's true.
I know that one was that Pantheon. Actually, the one that just
Pantheon is
that's the one people are kind of excited for. I think looks like Vanguard from 10 years ago to me, and I think they're promising a lot more than they'll be able to produce. But I'm also not a fan of the Tron aesthetics and glowing, cracked skin stuff. But that's more of a personal thing.
Also, it's like Conan Exiles is one that looks sort of interesting to me, beyond the swinging, you know what. Mm-hmm. Pantheon is going to be a bit
swinging windsocks everywhere.
Yes, they have the absolutely wrong mechanics. But anyway, Pantheon is going to be group oriented, and I'm not sure how well that's going to work for most working adults. So
yeah, it turns out a lot of times, especially in video games, people suck. It's funny how that translates over from the real world.
It really does, because people suck in general. And you get into a situation where most people work, and we all work different schedules.
Mm-hmm.
And
it makes it hard.
Always getting into the game at the same time because you have to do group content is going to be
Jazz, what if I told you too could apply for a pug group?
Oh gosh!
Now, how much would you pay? Would you pay $49.99 over an installment of 15 years? Yeah, no.
Pass.
All right, so we'll hit Jazz up here. So what you been doing in game, Jazz?
Well, in game, I've been organizing the guild and trying to get a workable hierarchy of ranks, because in ESO there's no IC ranks. The guild is constructed by account, which makes it impossible to
do it by character.
Have ranks. Yeah, you can't do it by character like you could at EQ. So I had to set it up on our site so we could keep track of whose rank is what, as well as having in-game ranks for people and how they help and whatever. Oh, Vasily, I've never split it before. That's new for me. So that's been a hard kind of to wrap my head around and organize like it needs to be organized. I've also been reading a lot of, news when I'm bored, keeping track of some games that I'm interested in, like Pantheon and other ones.
Yeah, which we'll get to. She's got a few.
Yeah.
She's got a couple in there even I've only recently heard of because I've not been paying that close of attention. But so what about you, Sib, my dear, my love, my honey bunny?
Basically trying to log in and just hoping to catch RP here and there, doing some leveling stuff, questing stuff. I haven't really logged into Final Fantasy in forever, but I'm just having a lot of fun in ESO. It's my kind of game. I don't know why, but I like to read up on the lore and stuff about it, and just that's about it.
Yeah, about similar to you, but kind of trying to get to know the character of Kenix Sulgal, Dark Brotherhood assassin, who doesn't, like any real assassin, of course, that's the first thing out of his mouth is, oh, by the way, I'm an assassin. 'Cause that's how all good roleplay assassins go about it, right? Everybody,
Right.
I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's actually not told a single person yet.
Yeah.
But no.
Oh,
go ahead.
there's one thing I did. I did set up a Twitter account, and I got a Facebook page so I can kind of do recaps on the shows. And
I'll have to hook
not that
that into the website then.
I'm going to be the only one doing them, but I wanted to get us more, I don't know what you'd call it.
Interaction,
yeah. So people have another place to go to interact.
Yeah. Good idea.
I am on Facebook at Sibh'Bae and at Twitter.
you might want to actually spell that one out because it's you got silent H's in there.
Yeah, it's I can't remember my Twitter thing. I'll have to look it up and double check, make sure I get that right. But it's just on Facebook, it's SIBH_BAE.
Yeah, and that was before the stupid version of Hey Bae came out, so that's not what that's about. That was just the last
I've had
name.
this character since
Back in SWTOR,
yeah,
the old Republic.
I just like their style with it.
Yeah. But, yeah. That's always helpful. Still trying to get our name out there. Anybody listening, if you like what you hear, like us, friend us, subscribe us, comment, but only if it's positive. We don't take any negativity here. None whatsoever, you
Wrong.
fucking douchebag. No, I'm kidding. We want everything. We want to hear what we're doing good, what we're doing bad. But as for me, we had just been, like I said, getting to know it. We did have that one interaction with between Sib and I we liked because the characters we're playing in ESO played back in the beginning, so they were kind of starting to get together, and then we kind of drifted off from the game. But she brought that character in, and there was it was what, maybe 5-10 minutes worth of role play just at the end of something, and it was very intense because they had separated, and of course now we have to come kind of with a character description of why the two of them haven't been together or seen each other in all this time. And it was a lot of fun, and it was, he was very aloof, and because he's not a very nice guy, as any assassin would actually be. It turns out they're not tender little teddy bears, which isn't always the easiest thing for me because I'm a pleaser at a lot of times, and while I like conflict and role play, I like it to be, at a certain, level, and it's hard to maintain the being a constant douchebag.
It's hard to step out of your comfort zone. It really is, and RP gives you that chance, and that's why I like it. I mean,
yeah,
I'm trying different personalities on ESO. Like Volley is like sarcastic, doesn't give a crap, quick to fight. And it's really not my comfort zone, but I feel like I'm doing okay.
Yeah, it does. It's hard to sometimes maintain the personality, especially when for me, my weakness is women. It's not in the way you're thinking, but I don't like upsetting women, at least, especially when they don't deserve it, because let's be honest, there's some that you just like, you know what, fuck you, you're kind of being a giant douche right now. But making women cry and things like that's just one of those things that always pulls at my heartstrings. I can't stand to see a woman crying because I'm a chauvinistic pig that way. You're welcome. And yes, I'm going to hold the door open for you. I don't care if you're capable of doing it. it's just polite. But yeah, so just keeping your back to somebody that we were supposed to be involved with, and then just walking away from her as it was raining and drizzling down, and he pulled his cowl up over his head, just like, yeah. That's if that was a movie, that'd have been a great scene, and half the audience had been like, he's neat, and the other half had been like, I hate him, he should be on a Lifetime movie and be killed. But you can guess which half of Switch on that one. So that's pretty much where we've been at, and just getting to know the characters. But excuse me. So let's go ahead. We'll switch over and hit our news up. And I think first up we got Sib with something from a game called Conan Conan O'Brien Exiles. That's right.
Yeah. No, mine comes from it's about Conan Exiles, and I found it on MMORPG article by Susie Ford, and it just talks about basically they Funcom devs posted a new cool survey asking what the Conan Exile community would like to see the team focus on next, and questions include where players will be seen, would like to see development go next, and what current existing features could be improved upon, and what tech aspects need improvement. Which, you always say your voice is not heard when you do these surveys, but you never know. It might be worth going and checking out, and especially our peers, we feel like we don't get heard at all, and all you do is spend a few minutes, go fill it out. There's spots to put comments, so just go put up some comments saying, hey, focus on us a little bit. I've got a couple of quotes too from people who commented on the actual article, and it's Theocritus, and I'm sorry if I butcher the names.
I wouldn't worry about it. That's what they get for having weird
I'm
names.
not really good at names, but it said, his quote was, help, we have no direction, isn't asking the community usually a recipe for failure. And yeah, a lot of us feel that way, but you never know.
Yeah.
And
well,
my other one was,
it's okay to ask, it's just don't expect everything that's been told to be taken seriously, because people ask for stupid things sometimes.
Yeah, but then you get the ones that ask for what they
Real
really
stuff,
want.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's always worth doing. It never hurts for companies to listen, but we've seen it over the years where they listen so much that they just butcher themselves, and they end up dumbing their game down to the point that it's awful.
That's with everything too, because I mean, work and everything. They ask you what you want at work, and you tell them, and they're like, they just laugh in your face pretty much. But like I said, you never know. Somebody might actually pick up that comment or what you comment on or say and run with it. You just never know.
Yep.
Oh, and the other one was from Heretic, which I'm kind of guessing is what it is. And he basically said, going to have to agree with the general consensus. They do these surveys and nothing comes of it. But it also goes into that you never know.
Yeah, that's true.
So I say, our peers, go fill out the survey.
Yeah, especially in its early stages, because RP is definitely one of those. We're definitely not a high priority in a lot of games, even though we probably should be higher than we tend to get, because they'll stick around long after the game has gone sour. EverQuest.
Yeah.
A lot of people in Final Fantasy 14, because I'll tell you, I just finished up the last bit of content that they're going to release for the next 10 weeks until the next expansion, and compared to the 2.0 era of Final Fantasy 14 and what just ended in Heavensward, boy, did that just come out like just a soggy, wet turd. And it was very unsatisfying end to lead into a brand new expansion, especially for a game like that, which is all story based. The first one, spoiler alert if you haven't finished it, but the scions of the Seventh Dawn are scattered to the wind. Half of them you think are dead. You don't know if any of them have survived. And in this one, it's like, okay, well, everybody's fine, and I guess the guy that kind of did stuff he was a douche and he tried to put armies against each other, but I suppose we'll just keep doing what he wanted us to do anyway. Well, okay, well, sure. It was not nearly as good. I don't know whatever the reason was, but the role players still kicking along because that's not the highlight of the game. I mean, they're bummed about it too, I'm sure, but they'll still be there for the next. While everybody else in the game is like, what do I do for the next 2 months of content? They're like, let's role play.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we should pay attention to that crowd. So, all right, well, I'll hit my story up here, and that is congratulations, Lord of the Rings Online, for your 10th anniversary coming up this month. I've had an on and off love affair with that game. I love the roleplay community there. They're really solid. The game does some really cool stuff, like with the ability to do the music, like actually make your own songs in that game through the musical instruments in it. And I just never could get into the gameplay in a solid way that kept me there. But it was always so much fun to dip my head in every now and then. But 10 years, it's hard to believe it's been that long. But they're going to have ongoing stuff if you go to their, Lord of the Rings Online. If you're playing the game, I'm sure you're well aware of this, but they'll have lots of things going on. They don't have everything up that they're going to do, but if you go there, they'll keep you up to date. They're going to have a special 12-hour live stream, which I can't even imagine doing that with one of their, what's her name, Jerry Cordovan Snook, and they're going to take a tour down memory lane. That'll be on the 25th of April, and they'll have developers, gameplay, giveaways, things like that. That'll be at their Twitch TV at twitch.tv/Lord of the Rings stream, LOTRO. There we go. Words, reading, good, fun, stream. So that definitely be worth checking out if you're still playing in that game, or even if you're kind of interested in checking it out. It's well worth a game. If you've never played Lord of the Rings Online, it's a fun little game. It's not little anymore, but it's definitely worth it. But 10 years, so that's no small feat, especially with given how many MMOs have sunset well before the decade-long mark. Looking at you, City of Heroes, and I know that community's probably gnashing their teeth because they still feel backhanded bitch slap for that one.
Yeah,
I don't blame them. And the only other piece I have, and it's not necessarily RP related, but as of the 13th, one of my favorite games of all time, Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past on the SNES turned 25 years. So that's one of my favorite games of all time. It's always in my top 5, top 3, especially even as Zelda games go. I haven't played Breath of the Wild. I don't have a Wii or a Switch, but I've heard great things about that. I would love to get that feeling back. But 25 years ago, little Ashton Phoenix would sit down and play that game. I don't know how many times I've beaten it. It's ridiculous.
That makes me feel old.
Yeah,
Very.
I know, right? That was still just, at least for me, I was still in school. That was, let's see, how old am I now? I'm 37. Carry the 1.
Sometime today.
By pi. At 12. I was about 12 or 13 years old, actually. But yeah, great game. Love it. So what you got, Jazz? You're up.
Well, I have always had a love affair with sandbox games, although they always end abysmally, and I have yet to find one. But I keep my ear out, and I read what I can find on it on a regular basis. Worm Online has been in my sights even before Landmark landed, because it was something that was very interesting to me. It looked better than Minecraft, and I was really curious if they could pull it off. But it was like beyond rough, and it's continuing to grow, and there's still people. This whole play it before the game is really done thing, I'm over.
Yeah.
So I'm just waiting until
early
it's officially
access.
Yeah, all that's over with, and it's a fully functioning running game. It has been about a year that it's been in a fully functioning status. Then I will buy it.
Mm-hmm.
I am not doing the other crap ever again.
Yeah.
it's just not worth the frustration when it goes belly up and they're like, oops, never mind.
Mm-hmm.
Landmark. Yeah. Oh, this game isn't fun anymore. We're not going to do it anymore. Never mind. It's like, what? Oh my God. I wanted to just like storm their castle and beat them. I was so angry. I've never been that angry about a game ever in my life. Well, no, that's not true. I was pretty pissed about AOC, but Age of Conan.
Yeah.
I loved that game, and they ruined it systematically so they could go play. What was it? Secret World? I think that took its place in their focus, if I remember correctly.
Which is now
and they never did that.
Redone, yeah.
Right, which they never did well to begin with. So I was very, very bitter about. Anyway, so Word Online looks really, really interesting. It's still a little on the blocky side, and it looks a little bit like a cheaper version of Landmark, but it's coming along, and I'm interested. I'm watching. The other one that I like is Life is Feudal, because it looks absolutely earth-wrenchingly horrible to play.
I watched that 5-minute video that they put out for your first 5 hours.
Yeah,
that looks pretty.
I was like, it's brutal. It just looks brutal.
Looks like someone took let's see, how could we make Dark Souls a miserable online experience? I know, let's set it in the feudal era and just make you have to live this horrible pioneer life.
Yeah, but
somehow make it intriguing and interesting that people will still want to do it. And I think they kind of did, because I'm curious.
Yeah, they've kind of done it. I'm curious. I watch it. And they also, I think because it's also interesting because unlike a lot of games, it has two versions of itself, both of which are getting attention. It has the MMO version, and then it has your own game version at the same time. And they're kind of going off of Minecraft in that. And then I think that was smart. I think they're following a trend. And I'm interested to see if they can pull it off. Again, it's not where it needs to be. The MMO is only in beta. And until it's, fully functioning game, I'm not going to buy it. But I really like what I see. I really like what I hear. And God damn it.
Dogs.
So your turn. You take it. I'll be right back.
Yeah, I see a couple people are having a problem with the stream. I don't know what's causing that. We're running pretty solid here, but I don't know if it's on Twitch's and or ours. But given we almost never have problems with our connection here, we're in a great area. I'm just gonna have to brag on. Was it Cox Communication? They do really good where we're at. It's like a solid 90 megabytes here, so I'm not sure why you guys are having a problem. I apologize for that.
I just blamed you on the general chat.
Yeah, I see that.
It's Ashen's fault. It's always his fault.
Ashen's fault. Yeah. All right, so
dogs and children muzzled. I am back.
Okay, welcome back. But all right, so did you have anything to follow up with that, Jess, before your dog so rudely interrupted you?
No, I think that was basic. Those are the two big things that I've been watching, are those two games, and I was really pleased to see they came out with the first 5 hours thing, which was fascinating, and then there's another one farther down that goes into the now version of it, the closed version for yourself. So yeah, I'm really pleased to see that that's coming along, and I look forward to seeing more.
Yeah.
It has a lot of RP potential.
Yeah.
Sandboxes are a better place for RPers usually, because you can build your own world and you can build your own situations, and then many times have your own server with just the people that you like on it. So there's a lot of possibility for that.
Yeah. There was, and switching, it was Life is Feudal, where they actually went between, they actually could go between a 64-person server or the typical massive MMO thing where it's,
yes,
thousands of people instead, which especially if you could switch between that'd be pretty neat. That was one thing. Was at Star Wars Galaxies, they was all just giant open world stuff on each planet, but them people building their own towns and cities, was great until, of course, then the player base started to drop off and they were all ghost towns and cities. But yeah, kind of went that way. But if they can find a good way to do that and find a way to keep it from like just trailing off, and you just end up with big empty areas of, derelict buildings and stuff like that. That'd be a good thing to try. Hopefully it works out for
Yeah, I hope so.
All right. So before we get into our main topic, we're going to have an advertisement. I've realized what most people would consider common sense is stopping in the middle of your topic to do a fun advertisement thing is probably always not the best way to go about something. It's nice to keep that flow going, and even better than that is then talking about it afterwards, like this right here, actually. Probably very, very unprofessional. It's just shameful, but...
We're new. We're learning.
Yeah, we're learning. It's a learning experience, which is why we're more than happy to have audience interaction and things like that. So, all right. So today, our advertisement will be illegal beasts and where to find them. Not a ripoff whatsoever. Don't flag us. So, okay, here's how it's gonna go. Today I'm announcing that this Easter holiday, I have traveled to a universe far, far away and made it back in one piece. I mean, mostly. But anywho, I'm here to bring you those hard-to-get exotic, quote-unquote, if you know what I mean, animals that you just can't get enough of. Yeah, that's right. We have the Vorn tigers, the Nexus, the Sifrips. You know what they is. So many more of those wonderful beasts that makes every excellent holiday monster. Yeah, I mean, not monster. It's monster. Pets is what I was meaning to say. Just, pets. Yeah. Oh, sure. You can get them boring little chitlick things, the tiny pocket-sized little fuzzy love monsters. But or the loth cats. They're cute, but who doesn't have one of them? But they just crap in your house. They make a mess. They think you're better than me. They think they're better than me. They're not better than me. I'm better than them. Stupid cats. You want something that both your kids can wrestle and also maybe eat in and true. Ow! Hey! I got a good deal on them. And the back. No, we don't bite. Hey, look at me. We don't bite. All right, that's what I thought. Better back down. Anyway, hey, yeah, could you get that baby raid back in its pen? Yeah, they don't belong out here. I'm doing a commercial here. How are we supposed to sell this crap? I mean, these things, that's wonderful product. If you keep letting them out of the pens, so jeez, it's hard. Hey, so come on down. We'll throw in a free chew toy of your choice. Pick up a gel resin figurine of that Jedi Satil Chan chick, that really angry looking dude with the bad haircut, Darth Malgus. I don't even know what's an HK-51. What is that? I don't even know. Okay, whatever. And our fan favorite, random Ewok, because people always like to watch them get chewed on. I don't know. You people are sick. All guaranteed to last until your little bundle of Toothy Joy gets a hold of them. And hey, no. Okay, I gotta make this fast. But come on down to Nashada's lower level in the dark alley, just beyond the landing zone to the right, near the corner of. Get off of that. Get off. Down. Okay, and chew the street and pick up your lovable little terror today. Your kids and wife will absolutely. Would you stop that? Your kids and wife will absolutely love you for it, or if, you're trying to get rid of your kids and wife, also a very high probability. Hey, I'm just saying, we don't judge. And no. Look, okay, hey, look for the sign that says illegal beast. It's loose. Get the stunner. Okay, fine. You know what? Find them. If you can't live with that. Okay, stop. Down. And you can't live without them. Coming to a planet near you on account of we can't stay here for too long. Yeah, and each visitor must sign a waiver before entering. Ironic, I know, given that with the bad next thing. Bad. Huh. Okay, so they're not all winners. And you slapping the crap out of that desk, boy, is that really loud.
Good job. That was fantastic.
Yeah. So, all right, enough of that silliness. Enough of that. don't get to do Italian mafia accents nearly enough. Not that I would know anything about that. They're all fantastic people there at the mafia, and they don't exist.
I think you did fine.
Yeah. So, all right. Game levels versus RP strength. This actually, we threw this out there just out of curiosity to see if anybody had something that they want to talk to. We actually got a few suggestions, and one of them we'll save till later when it gets closer to that game coming out. So this one's brought to us by our friend and listener who has been Nadish Tina, and is Razor Edge 2K9 in the general chat stuff. So we appreciate you, Razor, giving us this idea. It will be game levels, so leveling up through the game itself versus what your roleplay character's strength is, and does one really matter without the other? You know, can you just go off of pure game levels, or does you have to take into account? Do you have to take into account what the person's intended their character to be, which we'll get more into that. And of course, firstly, changes from game to game. Some games have like the slash, I call it slash duel because that's what it was in EverQuest, and that's what it is. In many of them, it may not be an actual slash. Sometimes it's a reticle and you duel them, but that's basically dueling another character using your armor, your actual skills, the game mechanics that come with that, as opposed to the RP dueling, which would be just typing out what you're doing and, slapping each other with words. You maybe using the slash random. Things like in FF14, they've got an area for the slash duel, but it's only on like a designated spot, which not the most convenient thing when you get into a fight and somebody in a bar halfway across the world and you're like, all right, let's take this outside down the street, over an ocean and to this one dock, which is the only place we can actually do a PvP kind of duel. Yeah, it's not the most thing, but so what you guys got? What do you guys think on this one? It's I know what I think, but let's hear what you think, because I know there's lots and lots of different people on this. It's always shifts from person to person what someone thinks is more important than the other.
Well, I have two opinions, because there's my opinion as a guild leader, and then there's my personal opinion. As a guild leader, I have to find a happy medium between the sides, and they often are either all one way or all the other. And you always have people who want to be all the power, but, be level 2. And then you have the people who have nothing else to do with their time 24/7 except play the game. And they are maxed out raid armor and the best of everything, and roar, and they're badass because of their, and it's not often, there's not as much of a story around it. They just say that they're badass because they killed X, Y, and Z in a game.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So those two schools do not like each other. And a lot of people fall in between those two. I personally, as myself, believe that you should be able to roleplay whatever level of the character you can pull off. The caveat to that is that if you don't know the lore and you don't know the game and you don't know really how to roleplay, you're going to run into a serious problem with god modding, metagaming, and just generally being a douche in the process of trying to be this big, strong person. And leveling at least gives you that, well, I'm maxed out level, so I can get away with this.
Or at least working on it, even if you're not there,
I personally have found that people who play the game with their characters and are slowly leveling up tend to be less inclined to say, I have the power, than people who are level 2, don't really play the game. They're just there to role play, and they always want to be this mega super duper uber bad guy with no flaws.
Lord.
And and they're level 2, and they don't understand why a large majority of people, even people who normally wouldn't dismiss them, will dismiss them simply because let's be honest, in most games you can get to level 30 in almost no time invested whatsoever.
Of weeks. I think what did I start? How many episodes was it? I started in ESL. I'm level 50 and well into the 60s and 70s of that. It's been so
Yeah.
fast. I don't even know what they're called. The combat points, is that it?
Yeah, champion
Yeah.
points.
Champion
Yeah.
points. Yeah, I'm like into 70 levels of that.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
been less- it's
I
been a
leveled.
month.
Yeah, I played limitedly and I got to max and then 160 in about a month and a half of just casual play. So it doesn't take long. It does take a little bit.
It takes some effort. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to. So if you're just logging into the game and playing a level 5 and you have the power, you are a 500-year-old vampire, fear me. I think there's some justification in people going, oh, whatever.
Yeah. And it's typically when it's, especially, I mean, and we understand we're talking in generalities here, and that is an extreme view. Very, very few role players that aren't like, green off the, green out and fresh off the presses of giving it a try for their first time typically don't do that. And a lot of times when it does happen, it's just, it's not always the most positive first roleplay experience, because it will be literally a room full of people all being like, listen, dude, you got to step back. Nobody's buying, what you're selling. And
well,
so,
it's also like, I told somebody one time who was role-playing this really, really old character, but had only been in the game for about 6 months and had no real understanding of the lore of the game. And so they were saying that they were, for EQ2, that they were a 10,000-year-old vampire.
Yeah.
And I had to very gently set them down and say, look, I understand this is your role-play and this is what you really want to do, but vampires have only existed for less than 2,000 years. Dark elves have only existed for less than 2,000 years. There is absolutely no way that your character can be a dark elf vampire. Or no, it was a human vampire and be any more than about 1,000 years old.
Yeah.
That's the max. You can't tell me what to role play. Well, actually, when it comes to,
you're right, I can't. But
in this guild, I can. Have a nice day.
Yeah.
Well,
and that's the thing.
With the game.
Yeah.
Right. If you want to play something, that's you, but many guilds are going to say, well, you can do that if you want to, but not here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's perfectly okay.
Yeah,
that's 100% okay.
Be like somebody going into Final Fantasy 14 and trying to play a Lycan and a werewolf. It's or a werewolf Lycan or a vampire. They don't exist in Final Fantasy. I mean, they do in some of the games. Like there was Vincent in Final Fantasy 7, which was kind of vampiric, but in 14 they don't exist. You're just gonna be looked at like a crazy person.
Yeah.
But
and that's the important thing, is by playing the game, you learn some of those things just in the process. And I think that's part of the reason why when you're level 2 and you're playing this super duper uber person, and mind you, I've met some people that can do it. And I've seen people be like,
and
okay with it.
We're not talking alts here, because obviously if you have an alt, you're probably already well aware of everything. This, and you've probably got your established group of friends and things like that. And that are going to play along with your character, because you probably, if you're doing an alt for something like that, you've probably, because I've done that, you and I have done that both, Jazz, for specific events and storylines. We create like a character, level it up to enough that we can get out in the world, and then that's our big bad monster for like a guild. Right. And yes,
but we have an understanding.
That's an understanding. When you come in fresh and you're trying to get into like random RP and things like that, it's really not that hard. And it's maybe it's not fair. It isn't, but it also, there has to be there's a balance, like I said before, and what's funny is there's the two lines of thought of, yes, it's important, no, it's not important, tends to be when you don't really think it out, or you're not a guild leader, or you're just out and about. It tends to be the one with the higher level thinks that it should only be the levels that matter, and the one with the lower level thinks that it's only what I wrote about my character and have in mind that should matter.
Exactly. I have actually seen that. I've seen people flip where first, when they first start, they're, I have the power, and they're level 2, and then they level up their character eventually, and they get to level 100, and then no one should be able to do this that they did when they first started. And it's like, but that's what you did. Well, that's different. No, actually, it's exactly the same thing.
Well, and then they get like, and there's the one sitting at a table at level 100, and this level 2 is like, I'm better than you are, and they're like, no, you're not. Holy crap! And it's it's being completely, if you don't at that point realize, oh, so that's why everybody wasn't taking me too seriously, you need to probably start maybe doing a little introspection on things
Yeah,
like that.
exactly. I mean, because I have absolutely no problem. I knew a gentleman that, he worked like 60 hours a week and still wanted to role play, and his character was like level 20, and it was probably never going to get beyond level 20, but he played a very bad, and I don't think anybody had a problem with him, but he didn't god mod. He,
and that's a big deal too.
Yeah, and he explained that I don't have time to level, but I do want to role play, and he never used it in such a way that you resented the fact that he was this level 20 that was actually this big, powerful person. But again, it comes down to discussion, talking to people about the situation, explaining, and not taking it so seriously that there's going to be some people that are going to go, and that's just the way it is.
Yeah, and that happens in every aspect of roleplay. There's always elitists, there's always, and I know we probably come off that way sometimes here, but honestly, when it comes to the actual people, that's because we're doing a show about it. So we've pretty much got to, we're here because we think our opinions are right. Who would have thought someone would do a show based on something where they think they're in the right of things? But we also do it with full understanding that there's many facets of a thing like this. But
there's always exceptions to the
there's
rule.
Always exceptions
but
to
overall, I would say that at least if you roll a character that you want to play big and bad, you should at least invest some time in leveling that character so that it looks like you give a damn about the RP.
Right.
And not just...
And it goes back to another topic we had, which was learning lore. If you're going to do that, you need to know that you can't be the 10,000-year-old vampire because they haven't even existed that long. Or that, I think in the aspects of Norath, I don't even think the world of Norath was technically that old at that point.
Actually, it was, but they were very limited.
It was like one race of people, I think, at the time. I mean, it was...
Yeah, or one or two, and they would, use sticks and didn't have wheels, and, they were pretty backwards, so...
Thag thinks that's good. Dragon bird, but...
Yeah, there you go. That was like the existence of it, so it was...
But and
it was always really hard when people did that and they just didn't understand. Or like when we would get into discussions about the dark elf culture and that people would insist that they've been around for they're not drow.
That's one thing everybody needs to learn in all MMOs, unless you're playing a Neverwinter Nights MMO, which I know they have that one out there. I really don't know how if there's roleplay in that one though, because it's largely on console, which I know that's not the easiest place to roleplay through, but and except with the exception of that game, dark elves aren't drow.
No, and it's very important to understand the difference. And I always ran into that a lot because, like, EQ was based on D&D, but they had some very well, they had to because otherwise they got because then they could get slammed. Just
like Elder Scrolls, their dark elves are nothing like drow. They're not a matriarchal society. They're barely anything. If anything, depending, and of course it depends on what time frame you're in if you go in those. But for ESO, they're, I'm curious to see with Morrowind, what they come out with story wise to kind of extend on that stuff too.
Yeah, part of the confusion, of course, in EQ in particular was because people used the Drow language, which was a developed language that some wonderful person made up a long time ago, and took the Elven language and twisted it and turned it into the Dark Elf language, and you could look it up and say phrases, and it was cool. But they thought that because you were using the language, that meant that you were using the cultural rules, and it wasn't, and there was no comparison between Drow, but yet you ran into, and I would say, at least half of the people playing Dark Elves role-played them as being part of a drow society with dominant females and that whole thing. And that simply didn't exist in EQ.
No.
Ever.
No, and they had a king. At the time of EQ2, there was a queen, but anyway, so we're
and she was a manipulative piece of work, but she wasn't in charge, and that was important to understand.
And other than leveling, the other thing, because there's two kinds of strength here. There's the in-game strength that you get through mechanics, and then there's the RP strength of a character. And the game strength, you really can't, you can't deny mechanically. You can kind of brush it off or push it aside. But like with everything in roleplay, the strength of your character is really, you can write in whatever you want. But if the people around you don't buy into it or roll with it, you've got nothing. You can write yourself as anything you want, but this is it's basically
you better be able to sell it.
Yeah, you've got to be able to sell it.
And right there, that is the most important thing, I think, whether you're level 2 or you're max level. If you can't sell it for what you're role playing, it's gonna fall flat on its face, and then people are gonna roll their eyes at you, and that's really hard to take when you're role playing. And it's important, I think, to me as a guild leader and as a role player, that I always told people, it's okay to play a raw character. Just remember that for every strength there's a weakness, and all creatures, great and small, have balance. So if you have what did it say in Aladdin? Awesome powers,
incredible, an unlimited cosmic power, itty bitty living space. And
that kind of epitomizes what makes people believe in villains, because they have to have. Everybody, all characters have to have positives
because
and negatives.
And no matter, even if you do that, you're still going to have the, he's nothing to me guy, but...
Oh, yeah, always. But that's almost the reverse of playing the awesome character, is that you'll have people who are like, I'm scared of nothing. And it doesn't matter what you do. They've decided that their character is immune and is never afraid.
And that's when you step into God modding.
Yeah, because it's a form of God modding, really. If you're saying... that the character that you're talking about is not fearsome, and the person is saying, well, they do X, Y, and Z, when you come to them, you get this sense of this. They're like, well, you can't tell me what my character thinks. Well, no, but they're telling you what you're observing. Now, how your character reacts to that is on you. But to just dismiss it because you've decided that nobody's scarier than you are is a form of God modding and can really damage roleplay.
Yeah, and that's one of those things, I mean, maybe I could be off, but my reputation in EQ2 as Xanis, I built that up over a period of years. It started out small, where he was, I always had an idea of where I wanted to go, and of course he evolved greatly, but to get to the point where people like, oh my gosh, Neelok, our good boy Neelok, where him and people like him, he would, he was totally cool, and I could not have done what I did on Xanis without his permission to allow me to. And because of that, it made Xanis' reputation that much better when he would, whenever that character of his would act up or do something into his character, what his character would do, for Transformers fan, he was the Starscream of our little guild, where he was kind of a sniveling little turd, but he was always trying to undermine you behind the scenes.
Yes, and he was a thug, and he was a kind of reminded me of a mafia kingpin in many ways.
And he was, and I say this with love, because he was so much fun. He was a great piece of shit. He really was.
He played this amazingly complicated, dark
especially at his age, because he was a pretty young guy at the time.
Which none of us knew.
He was actually a kid when he joined. He lied. He's a lying liar. But he was mature enough that he passed it off.
Yes, he pulled it off.
Also,
none of us knew.
He gave, because of him, I was able to build him and people like him. But, when we would get into fights, my character got angry enough that he picked him up by the throat and literally dropped him off a 10-story tower. And I mean, of course, he was a lot more powerful too, and he survived. But he didn't walk away unharmed. But he allowed things like that to happen. He allowed me to do things like that. And of course, in the reverse, so did I with other characters. And that's what you have to do. You have to build up that reputation and that perception. Because the perception, especially in this world, perception is literally reality. Because without that, you've got nothing.
It is. It's true. And you got to remember, too, after that, Nylok never went on a ledge with him ever again.
No, he never went. No, they, strangely enough, all their conversations took place on level ground, nowhere near any tall buildings or cliffs.
Yes. And I love that touch, because it was just this little tiny thing that somebody just coming in wouldn't understand why he said, and he doesn't turn his back to him but leans on the wall, because that's never happening again.
Yeah.
And people are like, what never happens again? Long story. It's just funny to us.
But that's the for your character to have your what you write and what you envision as, you have to, like Sib said, you have to sell it. You're basically selling your thoughts and ideas out to other people. And if it's so far on beyond both like beyond lore and things like that, or even if if your level just doesn't kind of coincide with that, it does, you can't go anywhere, and you're not going to get taken too seriously. Now, and again, this is extremes, and it's very rare. This is largely for kind of newer people, but there's plenty of old people that have been role-playing for a long time that don't understand that they're doing these kinds of things, and they just want to, and I understand that. We all want to, we get that, we have this great idea for a character. We want to get it out there, and we want it as soon as we can, but unfortunately, you've got to build that up.
Can I jump in right there, too?
Sure.
I know when you're in a guild, and they usually have the forums that you can go to, writing stories, I know you may not, I'm not really good at first writing stories, but then I kind of got better. But getting even like little short stories about your character on the forums, about things they've done, things they've gone through, it also helps people take you, a little bit more serious on how badass you are if you are writing, where they can read it, or introducing your character that way. It's just an idea.
Yeah, and it's in a more controlled. Yeah, like it's in a more controlled environment, but at least gives people the perception. Again, and even that, don't go over the top. But like this week, I wrote for the first time in forever. I wrote something of just my character doing one of his Dark Brotherhood assassinations and things like that, and obviously he's gonna win because there's no / random rolling. The fight's gonna go how I decide that it will, but it also gives people, anybody that reads that, they'll understand. Okay, so he's not a very friendly person, and he works exactly. He's an assassin. He does what he's supposed to do, and obviously. That's one of those other things. It's a little hard to play. You can't kill other people's roleplay characters, so that's really one of the only places you can do that. But at least they know in the background, like you said, that it's there, and it helps build that reputation. It's actually forums are, and also what's the other thing that I've seen people Tumblr. Apparently, I'd honestly, until I got to Final Fantasy 14, I'd not realized that a lot of role players are using Tumblr accounts to keep track of their character. I personally don't care too much, but you've really got to be, I'd have to be tied to that character like crazy, and frankly at this point I've moved around way too much to do that. It would be just a waste. But there is an entire roleplay community thing going on Tumblr where outside the game they'll play like that and roleplay back and forth, because it's a like a blog sort of a thing back and forth. But it's another place that will help build up that reputation, so that when, of course, you're in the game, it's kind of already being built up again, even more so. But I
know I did that with 9 in Star Wars: The Old Republic.
Mm-hmm.
I brought her in. I had switched over from Sib to her, and I wanted her to be a badass. And it's not really how I play, but I started writing stories about it, and to me, once I started to develop her, I felt more confident about approaching people, and doing duels and actual...
being more comfortable with the character in your own headspace, yeah.
I don't think she was maxed out when I first started doing that. I mean...
I don't think so.
I've started to kind of not max out my characters, and just, what happens.
Yeah. Well, and you also, a lot of the characters you play, and that's the thing, too. A lot of this... You don't have it. It typically only comes up if there's either a fight coming, or you guys are just butting heads like crazy. Which for usual conversations, just like in real life, day-to-day conversations, I don't need to worry if I can actually beat the crap out of the guy I'm having a discussion with. It's probably not going to matter. But in this, it's really typically comes up a lot more with combat and things like that. But it still doesn't hurt, because there is. And it's not always fair, but some people, they really do see, like, when somebody's coming in and they're role-playing and they're only, like, level 1 or 2, they don't take them seriously at all, which that is the opposite end of that, especially when somebody's just, like, they're just in there having a conversation, or they're serving drinks or something like that, and you see that level 5 character, and they're like, oh, I can push this guy around, which that's not cool either. You shouldn't be doing that. Excuse me. So, and it kind of it does work both ways on that. You've got to give and take. If you want people to respect what you've written, you've also kind of have to do the same in return. Otherwise, you can't complain too much when nobody's doing that. The other thing is, of course, when it comes to this stuff, is even when you do your character, you've got to be willing and able to lose. Nobody wins them all. Ask was it Ronda Rowdy?
Yeah.
You can't win forever, or Mike Tyson, any fighter, any football team, any baseball team, anything. You don't win forever, and you've got to be able to lose. Even in made up things. If you go with the crazy Dragon Ball Z and anime things, those guys get their ass kicked for a long time before they end up going Super Saiyan or whatever like that.
Yeah.
You've got to be. It's boring, frankly. If your character does nothing but win, even there's what's that anime that our son started watching? One Punch Man. This man can literally win any fight with a single punch. It doesn't seem like that's a great way to tell a story, but of course he has to land that punch, and the people he's going up to are just as crazy as he is, which is where all the interactions and the fun come of it. But, even he has to get his ass kicked sometimes, because otherwise, it'd be a pretty boring story if he just goes around flicking people in the forehead and they fall down. That's what builds your character, is being able to lose. So even if you've got your level 100 and you've got the maxed out gear and maxed out stats, and you almost literally can't be beaten if somebody's doing slash duels against you, if it does happen, man, roll with it. Don't make excuses. Don't puss out and be, my cat was on the keyboard and I tripped over my dog who was eating my goldfish and my children are on fire. Gotta go, bye. Yeah, it's just man up. You gotta.
I think
it builds losing builds character, just like in real life.
Yeah, just in real life. I think that also the people who are very, very good with PvP and who are very, very good in gear and tend to be more dismissive in roleplay of people who see themselves as powerful, and can roleplay it and can convince people duel. They're nothing. Mm-hmm. And that always bothers me, because it's a form of god mining, because mechanics and being good at those mechanics doesn't make you a role player.
Right.
And that's why in my guild, a lot of times I would say, we're going to duel today in RP.
Yeah.
And we also had OOC,
and then at the end of it, we would and then at the end of
have fun with
do the mechanic one. I would do that because I love both. I almost always, and this is just a personal thing, I always leave it up to the other guy. And if they can't decide, I'll be like, all right, well, just, what if I'll just base it off, try to be as neutral as I can if we're both close to it. But if I'm 20 levels above the guy, I'm going to, let's go ahead and do an RP duel, because I'm going to whoop your ass and there's not going to be any challenge to that, whatever. And unless, of course, and again, this is a fluid thing, like all roleplay is, unless, of course, that's how it's supposed to go. Because sometimes, if the master and apprentice thing, the apprentice more than likely is going to end up losing. But not always. There was a gal that my character had trained back a long time ago, Vinka, and when she started, she lost all the time. But as things progressed in our roleplay, she got on that level and she started being, holding her own, and but it formed naturally, and that's exactly how it was, and however it ended, that's how it ended. If she won, she won. If I lost, I lost. If I won, that was all good.
That is, it's one of those things that is probably always going to be debated. You're always going to have people who are like, well, I work hard for my armor and I spend the time and it's not my fault, you don't bother to. It's like, or I have a life and can't.
Right.
But at the same time, I get that they spend a lot of time doing it.
Yeah, and it is something you can respect, but you just have to be willing to, it's a communication thing. You've got to be You know, don't get into the fight and that goes for, you know, if you're the scrub and you're going and you're pushing the buttons of this guy that you know that's level 100 and does all that stuff, but you also know that he only slash duel PvPs, and he's made that abundantly aware that if you want to pick a fight with him, that's how you're going to have to end it. Maybe don't pick a fight with that guy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That's
true.
You know, if you know this in advance, and I've seen it happen plenty of times, you knew full well in advance, because I did it. I mean, of course, I was more than happy to duel him, because that's what I was going for. Yeah, and I was prepared for it. And then sometimes I was the one that when I win, they're like, that wasn't supposed to happen. I was like, well, it just did. Wipe his feet. You know, but you know, if you know ahead of time that the person you're poking the bear, and you know this bear only uses game mechanics, but you're unwilling to do that, it comes to a screeching halt. And then there's another half hour of you've basically pulled the entire area out of roleplay and into an OOC argument over levels. And I've seen it happen plenty of times, and it's funny because it happened, you know, 10 years ago in EverQuest 2 at the beginning of that, and it still happens today in games I've been passing by and been like, oh, know that argument. Somebody was poking the bear, and they're not willing to and one of the others not willing to, you know, either role play or duel the way the other one wants to, and now they're at a standstill, and where do they go from here? And typically it will go with the, you're not worth my time anyway. And they both walk off pissed off and on slash ignore.
Yeah, because I like, as Vodka, you remember, because she was the big badass in the guild, but Triton could always kick her butt. I sucked at PvP and did really well in AOC, but man, an assassin, you know, they were squishy for a long time.
They were very squishy, yeah.
Unless you could sneak up behind someone and stealth, you were dead.
Yeah, which is why I started using those potions that allowed me to see invisibility in duels.
And see, I never really actually dueled. I always did it in character slash.
Yeah.
Well,
I always play a healer, and I'm not saying that healers don't duel well, but I don't duel well as a healer. I always got my butt kicked, and so I just don't do the duels. Yeah. I would rather do it or in character.
Well, I always felt, I just explained it, that Baka's an assassin. It makes sense that face to face, she's not going to do
in a street brawl. She's gonna
because she's right there, sneak up behind you. But every now and then, I would get lucky, and I would stun him at just that right moment, and I'd be able to get behind him, and it was over.
And it was over fast, but you'd have to be
But I had to be able to do that, and if I could do that, I was dead. And I only got a couple people that way a couple of times. They figured it out and started stunning the crap out of me, and I was dead in 30 seconds. So
yeah, and
I just kept myself alive forever.
See, that's the thing. I think
I did. I was just like, I'm not dying.
If two healers are going to slash duel, I'm saying they should be required by law to only random and RP duel, because there is nothing more boring than watching two people smack each other twice and then heal for the next 10 minutes.
Yeah.
it's the worst duels ever. Oh my god.
Make a sandwich, come back, I'll probably still be doing it.
Yeah. Oh look, it basically at that point it's not a duel, it's a who's gonna run out of magic first. Which takes time, because regeneration in games is insane these days. But so yes, I mean basically I think we're all pretty much in agreement. I mean it is situational, but the levels do matter to a certain point. I mean, you do, it's a multi-layered like a lot of things are, but if somebody's done the work, you can at least respect them for having done the levels and things like that. And, if they're playing a strong character, at least they can actually back it up. But, if you're going to come in as level 1 Scrub Lord and, at the beginning armor and, you have the strength of Super Saiyan 17 Goku, Sephiroth, a vampire, werewolf, dragon god, you're not going to be taken seriously. But if you go in there at that level, and you're, you push buttons, but you're also willing to, if you're willing to lose, then by all, that's the thing is you just really, in the end of it, you just have to be able to roll with the punches. Like in all it's free form writing, free form role.
Well, it also comes to, like, I have a friend of mine that fights for a living, and he's not a role player, but I get a lot of my fighting mechanics from him. when I write.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll often give them to him to look at so that he can see if I'm doing it right. Because obviously I'm not a fighter. I've watched tons of fights, but I don't. So when you're writing something you don't know, you check. And one of the things that he told me when I poked his brain about this whole issue is he was like, here, and it boils down to also like rolling dice. If you're a mega guy and you're rolling with this guy and he rolls better than you and ends up kicking your ass, a lot of people are like, that's not fair because I've done this, and he's this big badass, this is little scrub, and he just kicked his ass. And my friend told me, he was like, you can go as a champion into a match and a guy gets one lucky hit and you're out. And you lose. And it doesn't matter that you won 3 championships. This guy got a lucky punch and broke your collarbone, and you're done.
You didn't duck. You didn't duck like you should have, and
you found out you had a glass jaw.
Yeah. I mean, so he says anything can happen in a fight, and he says, and then you throw in knives and
and weapons,
more dirty,
yeah.
Weapons. He's like, you're talking about a chance encounter. He says dice actually makes a lot of sense because it does come down to random. No matter how good you are, you can make a mistake. You're tired. You had too much coffee.
Environmental factors. Yeah.
Somebody farted off on the left-hand side. You looked at the wrong moment. Yeah. I mean, there's all kinds of things that can happen.
Yeah. If Juan the rice, it's the butterfly effect.
That was awesome.
Juan the rice farmer farts in China and creates a hurricane and then putters out, but makes it so that cat sneezes and distracts you as you're throwing the punch.
Right. So
that was awesome.
Yeah, thank you. I stopped really getting upset about it, and I started using that analogy a lot, and I found that a lot of people, even PvPers and people who raid, were like, that's a good point. And it kind of really stopped a lot of the argument that, random being random, you never know how it's going to go. Yeah. So that's why I like dice.
And you guys talking about the guilds earlier, it is nice to have a guild that will do the RP dueling, and then afterwards, if people want to actually do the dueling, that's nice.
Because it's always good to learn, too, especially in a friendly environment. That's why we did it all the time.
Yeah, we had PvP training sessions, essentially, so that people who would be afraid to PvP normally, they're going to PvP with someone who's not just trying to kick their ass. Like Triton, he would take off all his armor, and he would take off all his weapons. He'd be basically naked underneath his costume armor. Yeah, and go, okay, come at me. Give me the hardest. And he wouldn't do anything. He'd cancel all his buffs, and he'd just sit there and whack at you with his pinky and try not to kill you. And while you worked at the mechanics of PvP, because it's hard.
Yeah.
And I helped a lot of people. We would go, Triton and Tilder, all them. We would do that stuff, and we would go back and forth, and we would be like, okay. All right. I'm going to try this, and try to counteract each other and see, and sometimes, given game mechanics, it doesn't matter. Some classes are just better at beating it. It's the Pokemon thing, one class is better at beating this class, that class could take this class, and that class can take the first class, that triangle or the circle. The circle of life. But
well, like Triton said, the only people that could beat him were you and Greiger and another Shadow Knight.
Yeah,
because
and it wasn't always either, and it wasn't consistent.
But if anybody could beat him when he was in his great armor and he was raw, you could do it. You could stun him more and keep him from doing his big hits. Say with Gregor, like one time was out of stuns, and so he just grabbed him and started dragging him before they got rid of Dragon PvP, and you couldn't do that. He drug him like halfway across the ring. We were laughing. It was so funny because there was nothing Dragon could do. But there's always going to be, like you said, that one class that you can't really fight. But we all practiced and we learned, and that was what was most important.
Yeah.
Took the fear out of PvP.
Thanks a lot for that, Circe. Yeah.
I kind of blew drink out my nose on that one.
Yeah.
I was like, crap.
She posted a little picture of a really good-looking blonde in a hot tub switching her butt over and a massive amount of bubbles.
Look at that.
Yeah, but anyway,
that's wrong.
And for I wanted to say, for the PvP zones, I know leveling is what you need to do, but for me, I always make sure to take somebody high level with me, or I just avoid them completely.
Yeah, I still haven't been to the one in ESO.
Let's just be honest, there's no RPing in PvP zones.
No,
you're crazy.
It's bad.
Yeah. You're just going to get your butt handed to you.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Well, you're sitting there typing, you're already flat on your ass, but...
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, and so we're gonna start wrapping this up. We're about at our mark here. So
Holy crap! It's already been an hour.
yeah, it has already been an hour.
Time flew by.
Yeah, but it's you just got to be able to back up your shit talk. And here's the thing too.
And be willing to lose.
And if all you want to do for role play is go into a tavern and deal with the, who's sleeping with who, or who's backstabbing who, or the life and drama, the everyday things, who's dating who, lore debates, on things like that. Really, stuff won't even apply to things like that. This is pretty much just for those that are trying to pick a fight and things like that. But you also never know when that might happen too, because not every it's role play. You never know what person is going to come in and they're like, I'm going to pick a fight, and it could be perfectly legitimate reason that they start picking one. Not everyone's doing it to troll you, which we've had try that too, but
always.
But it won't matter if you can kick someone's ass if all you're there for is just to have a nice conversation and role play having a drink. But that's obviously, I mean, it almost goes without saying, but it still has to be said, because it wouldn't be much of a talk show if we didn't say it out loud. It'd be like, yeah, oh. But it's one of those things that you've got to balance it out. Know your server's community, know your audience that's around you, know the people that you're role playing with, or at least get a feel for them if they're brand new. There's always going to be those people that are just, that's all they want to do. And I was like that for a long time. I still do. I still love getting into a combat fight. It's always fun for me. Has been for over 10 years now. But it doesn't have to happen every single time. So, you guys got anything else final to say?
Nope, I'm good.
Final thoughts?
Hold on. There's something on the message board. Jazz, or you can roll 100 and uppercut a dwarf in the nuts. Okay.
Thanks.
Oh,
Thanks,
God,
Razor.
I remember that.
Did I read that right?
Yeah, you read that right.
I went to punch and rolled 100, and the poor thing right in the nards.
Oh,
was
nice.
It was bad. I was like, oh, this is gonna hurt. Sorry. And for those who don't know what we're talking about, when you roll dice, at least for what we do, ones and hundreds are absolute. So if you get a 1, you're basically you're gonna die, or
just
it's
like rolling a 1
fail.
or a 20 on a dice. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you roll a 99 or 100, it's gonna hurt. It's bad. So
he's gonna be. That poor dwarf was coughing up balls for days.
It's still coughing up balls. At this point in time.
So, all right. Well.
Oh, I wanted to throw out there too. My Twitter is at Sibh'Bae. So, like I spelled it before.
Yeah. All right. Anything else before I close out the show?
I'm good.
All right.
Good here.
Well, I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Appreciate that, of course. We do it every 2 weeks right now, so tune in live every other weekend here. I know our days shift, which can be a little confusing, but that's due to real life schedule conflicts. Jess has to work usually one day out of the week on the weekend for an ungodly long period of time. So. We have to go around that, and we're more than happy to do that, because that's one thing we actually haven't hit on is real life always comes first over role play and things like that. So when she's got to do her job and take care of her family, or we do, that will always trump the show and any role play that anybody should be doing. You don't want to end up being that chick on was that Felicia Day show, The Guild.
Yeah.
With her kids in dog pens while she's trying to play her MMO. You don't want to go there. That's typically not good. So
no, that's bad.
Appreciate you guys, like I said, tuning in. You can join us if you've got anything. You can join us at our Discord, of course, which you can click to if you go to RPMMORadio.com. We got a link to that's ongoing from there. Facebook at RPMMORadio, Twitter, all that stuff. We even got an Instagram, because apparently there's a lot of people on Instagram. I guess that's a thing. I don't know. I guess it's a thing that kids these days use. But yeah, just join us at any one of those places. We'd love to hear from you. Love to hear what we're doing good. We'd love to hear what we're doing bad. Love to hear anything you might want to hear us talk about in the future, or if you have questions or comments on that, we'd be more than happy to read them on the air. So, excuse me. But that'll pretty much do it for this episode of RPMMO Radio. So what we'll have you do is just tune in next time when we'll talk about airships. Should airship companies beat their passengers with delicious bags of oranges so that they won't leave a bruise when they won't leave their seat? What? It's not topical.
Bye, guys.
It's not related to anything in real life.
Thank you for tuning in.
Tune in next time on RPMMO Radio.
The thoughts and opinions expressed by RPMMO Radio are just that, and should not be taken as the gospel truth, but pretty close to it. Music provided by Husky by the Geek. Visit him at youtube.com/HuskyByTheGeek to hear all his great rock covers.